All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're taking a close look at a really interesting lecture from 2010. It was given by Ryuho Okawa, the founder of Happy Science, in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We're going to break down how this lecture was put together, piece by piece, specifically for that Brazilian audience, using the lecture's own text to guide us. So, right out of the gate, you can feel the intensity. The preface to the collected lectures calls this trip a life or death mission. I mean, think about that. It was considered so risky that before even leaving Japan, a lecture was delivered that was described as a last will and testament, just in case. And this quote, wow, it just says it all, doesn't it? It captures the absolute drive behind this whole thing. During a layover in Dallas, when they were told there were no members around for a lecture, the response was, then go gather even scorpions. It's this incredible no-excuses determination that really sets the tone for everything that follows. Okay, so you've got this incredibly intense mission as the backdrop. The big question is, how do you shape your message for this very specific audience? Let's dive into how the argument was built, starting with the first part of their strategy. Well, the first big challenge was, the audience itself. We're talking about a country where something like 80% of the population identifies as Catholic. So the lecture couldn't just start from scratch. It absolutely needed to build a bridge to connect the ideas of happy science with the deep faith that was already there. So how do you actually build that bridge? The approach was pretty clever. First, you start with something everyone can agree on, a universal idea. Then from there, you make a much more specific and, frankly, a much bolder spiritual claim. Let's see how they found that common ground. The first move is brilliant, really. It focuses on a shared core principle, the teaching of love. By pointing this out as a central value in both Christianity and happy science, it creates this instant connection. It's a shared foundation you can then build the rest of your argument on. And once that foundation is laid, boom, here comes the core claim. A direct spiritual line is drawn between the speaker and Jesus himself. The claim is that 2,000 years ago, the speaker was actually guiding Jesus from the heavens. And now, today, the roles have kind of flipped, and the speaker receives inspiration from Jesus. It's a really powerful way to establish authority and a deep connection. All right, so you've just made this massive spiritual claim. What's next? You got to back it up, right? And that's exactly where the lecture goes next. It shifts to presenting what it calls proof, the power of miracles. So the lecture basically asks the audience, okay, if this connection is real, and if these teachings are true, where's the evidence? The whole argument pivots right here, moving from just belief to actual demonstration, offering up miracles as tangible proof. And the examples given are pretty incredible. The source talks about followers curing diseases that doctors had given up on, people being healed by discovering things about their past lives, and even a school in India where kids supposedly use something called Alcantara healing to get better without any medicine. Now, to really get what that last point means, we need a quick definition. The source material explains that El Cantare means light of the earth. It's described as a spiritual being whose whole purpose is to light up the world and bring happiness to, well, everyone and everything. And it's not just that. The lecture actually redefines what a miracle even is. It's not just some weird thing you can't explain. The source is very clear. A miracle is proof of God's salvation. So every single miracle is presented as direct, undeniable evidence of divine help. So, what makes these miracles happen? According to the text, it's not random. They're triggered by a specific, powerful emotion. It's that deep, selfless desire to save someone, to help them, to bring happiness to just one more person. That feeling is presented as the key. Okay, and here's where the whole thing just clicks into place. After building that bridge of common ground and offering up proof, the final part of the lecture turns straight to the audience. It lays out a very special destiny just for them. Brazil itself gets put on a pedestal, really. It's described as a spiritually advanced nation. And why? Well, because the people there already have such a high level of interest in the spiritual world. This makes them, in the lecturer's view, perfectly prepared to not just understand these ideas, but to become their champions. The lecture points out that the number of believers in both Brazil and India is just exploding, and it specifically praises the passionate, volunteer missionary work of the Brazilian members. It's held up as a model that everyone else, even members back in Japan, should learn from. And to really drive this point home, they even put a number on this spiritual backup they have.
The lecture claims that the entire movement is being guided and supported by a group of 500 spiritual beings from the heavens.
And this quote, "This is the grand finale. This is the vision presented to the people in Sao Paulo. The ultimate goal is for their enthusiasm, their spiritual fire, to be re-imported all the way back to Japan, to shake things up and re-energize the movement right where it started."
And that's what we're left with. This whole lecture we've just unpacked ends with this incredible call to action, but it also leaves us with a much bigger question to think about. When it comes to faith and belief, can the passion of a group in one country really flow backward to completely reshape a religion in its own homeland? It's a fascinating thought.